Do you ever think the word Thursday is pink? Or that the sound of a phone ringing smells like popcorn? What about the word koala tasting like hot chocolate when you say it? This may sound crazy, but it's not that crazy because some people, called synesthetes, seem to sense things with more than one of their senses. In Melissa McCracken's case, she sees colors when she listens to sounds and music. Just imagine a world where every sound has a different hue, every voice a different tone, and every buzz a different tinge. Well, now you don't have to imagine it, since Melissa paints some of the songs that inspire her with their vivid colors and texture using acrylic and oil paints. This allows us a glimpse into what life is like as a synesthete. Synesthesia was first dismissed by doctors and scientists as just a mental illness or the result of overactive imagination. But in fact, it is a neurological condition in which the neurons in your brain make connections with two senses when one is stimulated. There are various types of synesthesia varying across the senses and creating a different experience for each person. But this is one of the most common types of synesthesia called grapheme synesthesia, in which letters and numbers have different colors. And a more rare form of synesthesia called projective synesthesia is when the person experiences a whole image projected in front of them, creating a landscape. Bert Bogard, who is a scientist and professor, is a synesthete herself and has found that synesthesia can have great benefits in memory and creativity. This may have aided in some great works of famous synesthetes like Eddie Van Halen, Stevie Wonder, Vincent van Gogh, Franz Liszt, Leonard Bernstein. But what is so special about this cross-firing in the brain? Scientists don't really know why this happens because these connections shouldn't be there. And so I was fascinated when I first heard about synesthesia. I was so fascinated, in fact, that I began to search up how to train your brain to kind of act like a synesthete. It is possible to train your brain to a certain extent, but not as much as a synesthete, by consciously trying to make connections between two things. For example, I tried to make connections with words and colors. Who knows, maybe these connections would help me in school for studying or for exams. But maybe you don't need to do the brain training because everybody has some synesthesia already within them. Don't believe me? The Kiki-Boba test is a test given that proves that we have connections between how words sound and shapes. In this experiment, participants are given two piles of shapes, one pointed shapes like shape A, and some rounded shapes like shape B. And they were asked to name each pile either Kiki or Boba. Nearly 100% of participants named pile A Kiki and pile B Boba. This proves that there's a connection that we tend to connect words and how we say them with shapes. Another experiment that proves that we all are synesthetes is an experiment given at Oxford University by Anne Sylvie Crissinell and Charles Spencer. In this experiment, they have participants smell 20 different scents and listen to 52 different sounds in varying tone and pitch. There were common correlation between sweet and sour scents and high pitches, and musky and woody scents and low pitches. This proves that we do make common connections every day in our everyday lives, from scents to words to shapes. And this is some of the data from those experiments. When I first began the brain training, I didn't think it was going to work very well, but I did notice after a little bit that I became more dependent on colors. It became more obvious to me when in my chemistry class we were given black and white textbooks or packets instead of textbooks because the new textbooks hadn't yet arrived. And it was so hard for me to remember the information because there wasn't any colors, colored headings or highlighted words or anything to base off of color-wise. Had I really start to become dependent on colors to remember things like the equations in my chem class, psychologists at the University of Amsterdam even conducted an experiment in which they tried to see if brain training really worked. And although their results were inconclusive, there was some positive outcomes that led to it could be that lets Falcon that it could be possible to train your brain to act like a synesthete. Scientists don't really know why synesthesia happens, but it is more prevalent than most of us think. Up to 4% of the population are synesthetes, and most of them don't know that because they grow up making these correlations between colors and words and sounds or wherever their synesthesia makes connections with, and they don't know that it's fake because, or that it's not fake, but it's not common because it's all that they've ever known. They always have made those connections. So maybe we're all synesthetes, we just don't really